guys, and welcome to another vlog. So in this week's video then, I'm going to share with you 10 of my most used ambition motivation quotes. So these are quotes that I have used for many years and quotes that I've always turned to when I've found things that are a little bit tough and I'm trying to find that ambition and that motivation again. So I always turn to these quotes. I've got them written down in the book here in front of me. And I'm going to go through them one by one, and I'm going to give you the reason as to why I use them in the hope that by imparting this knowledge with you, you will find use out of them as well, and that you'll be able to use them hopefully to motivate your ambition, your dreams, or your goals. So the first one we've got then, ambition doesn't ask for permission, it shows up even when no one's clapping. So I've used this one often when I've had to push forward through with ideas. So for example, in my previous businesses, the cookery school and the deli, when things used to get hard, and it would feel like you would really sort of dig in for that ambition to rediscover it and reignite it. So I quite like this one because it gives you that kind of idea that you don't need that validation from others, even when it is tough. And when you are kind of seeking out other people's opinions and other people's validation around you, whether it's professionally or from your family, it just gives you that kind of feeling to keep on going and keep on pushing through for that ambition. So the second quote then, the life you're chasing won't wait forever. Start now, even if you're scared. Now, I've openly talked about my fear on this channel, and if you follow me over on Facebook and TikTok with my shorter form content, I've spoken there about the fear of failing and the fear of being judged when you're working through a new ambition or a new idea. But deep down, you know that your dream life needs action now, not when things are perfect, because life never will be perfect. There's always going to be things that are going on. There's always going to be distractions. There's always going to be changes and noise in the world around you. So it's about taking that action now and not waiting for perfection. And I think that's why I like this second quote, because it just encapsulates that quite nicely. And, this quote used to hit me when I was procrastinating, when I would be overthinking things and not sure when to start and how to move forward. So, take this one really as your call to move and start, even when you do feel scared. I think there's another quote, isn't there, where it says, feel the fear, but do it anyway. So I quite like this one. So the third quote then, every ordinary day you keep going is one step closer to an extraordinary life. Now, this one is quite a nice one because, as you know, in business, in life, in day-to-day life, most days do feel like a grind because there's lots to get done, there's lots to achieve, and you're taking those small steps. And some people, I'm sure, watching these videos are running sort of side hustles or sidelines alongside a full-time job. So that grind is even harder because you've got the day job to do as well as working on your side hustle outside of working hours. So there is no fanfare, there is no instant wins, but you still get up and you chip away, whether it's a post, whether it's a vlog like this, whether you sit down and record yourself for half an hour and post it on your YouTube channel, whether you sit down for an hour with a notebook and you map out an idea of something that you want to plan in the future. It's about keeping on that grind and keep taking those steps and moving forward. So this quote reminds me that, small, quiet effort is what builds that kind of extraordinary, and keeping on going even when, nobody else sees it yet. And you're the only one can visualize that end sort of extraordinary goal. And, you know what it takes to keep on going to achieve that. So I quite like this one to help with that kind of procrastination and help with that moving forward through the grind and realizing that there is better days coming. So the fourth quote then, you're not behind, you're just building something no one can see yet. Now this one is quite a powerful one. I think it's quite an interesting one because when you look at others around you on similar profiles, going viral, launching big projects, making lots of money, making money faster than you, seemingly getting more results quicker than you in similar fields, it's easy to let yourself feel like you're falling behind with your competition. and people that are around you. And I think that is probably one of the negative sides of scrolling through Facebook, TikTok, and YouTube when you do see creators and people in similar fields to you moving quicker than you are. That can kind of overtake you, really. So this quote is there really just to ground you. And it's one that I have used in the past when I do get that kind of fear of failure and I see others, pushing forward, and I'm not necessarily getting ahead as quick or as well as I'd hoped I was. But use this quote to ground you. It allows you to layer your vision, and to be creative and look at that kind of long term, and use it as a reminder to you that you're building something deep, and that takes time. And invisibility is that first part of that process. It is hard for you and others around you to see what you're trying to achieve. So yeah, this one's a nice little quote, and use it really to help ground you when you're going through that process. So quote number 5, this one is my favorite. Ambition is a whisper that turns into a roar if you're brave enough to listen. Now, I like that one because it just reflects that inner voice inside you as an entrepreneur, that inner voice inside you when you're seeking out your dream and you're working on your dream and your ambition. And that sort of gut feeling that your project really does matter, even when it's quiet or doubted by others around you, or even doubted by yourself. Because I've been there, we've all been there. It is difficult in the early days when you're having doubts whether or not this is going to work and whether you can push that forward as a project. And also, use this quote to remind you to honor that whisper and nurture it and act on it. If you have those ideas that kind of slowly whispering away in your mind, then act on them if you can do so and you want to do so. Because if you don't, you do run the risk of silencing something that could be quite powerful inside you. There are many creators that I've watched recently that talk about dreams and ambitions, and every single one of them says to write down your ideas and your ambitions and your dreams, because they say they die if they stay within your head. So using that sort of journaling and turning that whisper into something that's quite more like a roar, really, and writing it down. So yeah, use that one to help you reflect that inner voice and get that idea out onto paper. So quote number 6 then. You can't outrun the work, but if you do it with heart, it will never be wasted. So everything that I've done, I've always worn my heart on my sleeve, and I've put everything, I've put my all into the ventures. Even this now, the ambition to achieve my new project, I'm putting my all into it, my heart and soul into it. Even when things didn't pan out. So for example, the deli, the cookery school, they're not fully fledged functioning businesses now, but they were a massive learning curve. And that in itself makes me feel that nothing has been wasted. And use this quote really to remind you that effort with soul creates that kind of growth within you. And personal growth, I think, is really important when you're going on this journey of becoming an entrepreneur or becoming somebody who's following through with their ambition or their goals or their dreams in their life. Put soul into it, put your heart and your soul into it, and you will see growth in whatever it is that you're trying to achieve. Even when the outcome doesn't give you that kind of instant overnight success. So use this quote really just to keep you again grounded to the effort that goes into it and the soul and the eventual kind of outcome. Okay, so quote number 7 then. Now, this one comes with a bit of a warning. It's a little bit controversial. It's something that I have been discussing with people around me a lot recently. So they might doubt your dream, but that doesn't mean you should. Now, I meet a lot of people in business. I meet a lot of people through these platforms that I work on. And a lot of people do take other people's doubt on board, and it starts sort of eating away at them. So whether it's a dismissive comment from someone close to you or feeling unsupported at home, for example, you need to believe in your idea, and you need to kind of silence out those one-sided feelings, and don't let their kind of doubt creep in and turn it into your sort of negative doubts and these kind of self-limiting thought processes and behaviors. And use this quote as your armor, really, because really the deep down sort of nuts and bolts of this quote, it says to keep going and that your belief is enough to keep anything alive. So use it as more of a power to keep your idea alive and keep going. So quote number 8 then. This is one that I shared with a colleague and a friend only a couple of days ago, and I quite like it. So it's one bold step is worth more than 100 perfect ideas. So you can sit there with a notebook full of ideas, and you can be jotting all of these things down, which is a good thing. Something that we mentioned previously in the last few quotes. It's good to get those ideas out of your head and onto paper so that they have a chance of staying alive. And they're all good ideas, but when doubt or perfectionism creeps in, this quote is kind of your little nudge to act. So it's a reminder to choose motion over perfection, and also to keep putting things out there, whether it's messy. My vlogs aren't perfect. This is, I think, my 8th or 9th vlog now on the trot. I've tried to keep on going every week, and they're not perfect. There's no fancy setup here. I'm doing it on an iPhone with a basic setup here in my living room at home. So, they're probably not the most aesthetically pleasing vlogs, but we've started, and imparting this knowledge. So keep putting things out there, whether it's messy or a little bit untidy, because the beauty of YouTube is when you do make it and the channel becomes sort of 2, 3, and 4 years old. This content that you do at the beginning is what they call evergreen content, so it just keeps on delivering. And I think it's nice when you look at bigger creators and where they started to where they are now, and seeing that growth and seeing that imperfect and messy side of some of the bigger creators, and seeing how they've evolved. And you can use it really as a stepping stone to build your ideas and build your kind of confidence, really. So use this one then, to keep you grounded, that motion over perfection, and just keep on going with content or ideas that you might be planning. Okay, last 2 quotes then. So in at number 9, make your ambition louder than your excuses. Now this one is quite a tough one, really, because we're all, I certainly am the type of person who will look for the excuse not to do something before I actually do it, and procrastinating then over the idea and the reason why I should be doing it. So, if you're juggling a family, full-time job, self-doubt and pressure, but deep down, excuses can become sort of like being imprisoned. So putting that excuse up against your ambition or your dream or your goal is never a good thing to do, really. But this quote doesn't guilt trip you. It just puts you almost in front of a mirror and makes you ask yourself, which one are you listening to today, your dream or your delay? So I think with quote number 9 here, it's really interesting to keep asking yourself every day. Imagine, if you have a mirror and you have the time to do so in the morning, put yourself in front of the mirror, ask yourself that question, and which one are you listening to today? Are you listening to your dream and are you working on it, or are we going down the route of excuses and delay? So, really important sentiment to take away from that quote. Okay, so last quote then, number 10. This isn't just ambition, it's a promise to your future self not to settle. Now, I really like this one. And this is a quote that I found in one of my motivation books many, many years ago. Now, I think it's probably about 8 or 9 years ago. And I've always been drawn back to it because, I've seen what settling looks like. So coming out of business into something a bit more structured, such as a paid employment role, and back then into business and back again. So I've seen both sides of the deal, really, and what being settled looks like and what that feels like. And also, being in environments that don't kind of understand your vision, that can be quite draining, where you have almost got this kind of difference in enthusiasm. Your kind of side hustle and business environment is one that's quite highly energized and charged, and you know the way with that and you're working on it, in comparison to maybe being in a standard sort of 9 to 5 role where that energy is slightly different. So this quote really is kind of deeply personal, and it reminds you that all your late nights, your trials and rebuilding phases, are part of keeping a sacred promise to your future self. So I did an exercise with a group a few years ago now where we actually used this quote to create the starting of a journal. So at the start of the journal, I asked them to write down this quote, and then underneath the quote, then to tell their future self what the promise would be, and then to keep. Then I used to make that group to keep coming back to the book and looking at that quotation so that they realize, 1 year, 2 year, 3 year, 5 and 10 years in, that they're still on course with what they're hoping to achieve. So yeah, use this 10th and final quote really as your promise, your sacred promise to your future self, that you will deliver on those ideas that you really want to achieve. So that's it, guys. That brings this week's vlog to an end then. Slightly different one this week. I wanted to present to you really. I'll be dropping some of these different vlogs in, I suppose, maybe once or twice a month, just to give you an insight really and an idea into the background and the workings of the motivation behind it and the mindset that's needed. There are many kind of motivational vlogs and quotations and books out there that, some people look at them as maybe being a little less value. But I do think if you carve out your select 10, let's say, and the 10 quotes that you really like the sound of and that you use from day to day in your sort of ambition journey or your dreams and your goals, then yeah, do write them down and do keep revisiting them. So I hope this vlog has been useful to you, and I do hope that you're finding the content on this channel really useful and usable. I'm imparting this knowledge with you in the hope that you can take it away and use it in your own sort of ambition journey or your dream and goal journey, whether that's in your personal life, your professional life at work, or indeed your kind of side hustle entrepreneurial life. So as always, if you've got some feedback for me, any comments to make, then please do so. Let me know underneath the video here in the comments section. It's always nice to hear back from the audience, and I'll do my best to answer. And if you haven't considered doing so already, please do subscribe to the channel and give the video a like and a share, because that does really help us out on the channel. So for this week then, that's it from me. Take care, and I'll see you all again next week.